The millionaire everyone feared until the waitress shocked him at 3 a.m. In the heart of a city that never sleeps, there was a diner that everyone whispered about. It was a place where dreams collided with nightmares, open 24/7, and where the smell of burnt coffee hung in the air like a dark cloud. But the real reason the diner was infamous? The millionaire, Lincoln Graves. Everyone knew who he was. Tall, with sharp gray eyes that could pierce through your soul. He moved like he owned the world because he did. Yet, there was something eerie about him. Rumors swirled around Lincoln like a thick fog, that he could make you vanish with a snap of his fingers, and that he'd done just that to people who crossed him. It was 3 a.m. when the diner buzzed with a strange energy. The neon signs flickered like dying stars, and shadows danced across cracked linoleum. A lone waitress named Sally was cleaning a table, her hands trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper. She felt the weight of the eyes on her. The employees always said Lincoln only visited during the witching hour, like some dark specter haunting the place. As if the diner itself held its breath, suddenly, the door swung open. A gust of cold air swept in, sending a shiver down Sally's spine. There he stood, Lincoln, with an ominous aura surrounding him. He ordered the same thing every time: black coffee and a slice of pecan pie. But tonight, something felt different, as if the world was about to tilt on its axis. Sally glanced nervously at him, her chest tight with anxiety. That was the moment the mysterious tension escalated. Could she serve him without spilling a word? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment the words left her lips, the air thickened, and Sally could feel an invisible tension pulling her closer to him. She watched Lincoln take a bite of his pie, his expression inscrutable. Seconds stretched like hours as his gray eyes locked onto hers. Suddenly, he burst out laughing, a low, menacing sound that sent chills racing down Sally's spine. What had she said that triggered that reaction? Each laugh felt like a thunderclap, echoing through the diner, mixing with the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. As Sally wiped the table nervously, she felt a rush of adrenaline. Behind Lincoln, a shadow seemed to flicker. Was it just her imagination? Or was something hidden nearby, planning its next move? Little did she know, this night would change everything, dragging both her and the elusive millionaire into a whirlwind of chaos and secrets. What would happen when the clock struck 4? The air buzzed with a promise of something sinister. The clock was ticking. Sally's heart raced as the laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that wrapped around the diner like a thick fog. She forced a smile, wondering if she had crossed an invisible line with him. Lincoln leaned back in his booth, effortlessly exuding dominance. He was a king in a dinky throne. What is so funny? She mustered up the courage to ask, her voice trembling. The question slipped out before she could stop it. Lincoln's grin widened, and it wasn't he friendly. You. The word hung in the air, dense and heavy. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing, and Sally felt an electric jolt run through her. You think you're safe here? You think you know me? His gaze pierced her, stripping her of her defenses. Suddenly, the diner's quaint atmosphere felt like a trap, the flickering lights buzzing ominously above them. It was just her and Lincoln, in a cosmic duel of wills at a cursed hour, the din of the diner fading into a void of tension. She swallowed hard, trying to gather her wits. Maybe I don't want to know you. A faint laugh escaped his lips, and the rest of the diner seemed to hold its breath. Was she pushing her luck, or had she finally stumbled upon a glimmer of bravery? But curiosity is a dangerous beast, I assent it, he said, his voice deepening to a dark whisper. You have no idea who you're dealing with, do you? At that moment, the door swung open again, and a shivering man rushed inside. He was disheveled and panic-stricken, eyes wild as he scanned the diner like a hunted animal. Help! I need help! He shouted. Sally's pulse quickened. She caught Lincoln glancing sideways, his interest piqued. The man approached their booth, desperation leaking from every pore. "Please, he stammered, abruptly halting mid-sentence when he locked eyes with Lincoln. Sally's breath caught in her throat. This was no ordinary meeting. The table between them felt like a chasm filled with unspeakable secrets. What darkness had this new man brushed against? Lincoln straightened, something predatory flashing across his features. "What's the matter?" he asked, his voice silky smooth but tinged with danger. The man faltered, struggling to find his voice. "They're after me. I don't know what to do." His words came out in frantic bursts, contrasting sharply with the calm surrounding the millionaire. Lincoln's eyes glinted like steel. "Who's after you?" A bead of sweat dripped down the stranger's forehead, and Sally felt the weight of Lincoln's intense gaze pushing down on both men. The man hesitated, glancing furtively at Sally, then back to Lincoln. "I can't." Before he could finish, Lincoln leaned dangerously close, eyes narrowing. "Speak," he commanded, the authority in his voice making Sally shiver. She could feel the air thickening, as if the walls were closing in tight. "It's the syndicate. They're coming for me." The word struck like a lightning bolt, ricocheting around the diner. Sally's head spun. The syndicate? All those tales, mentions of disappearances, unspeakable horrors, whispered in the shadows. In a split second, she knew nothing would be the same. The clock ticked closer to 4, and the diner felt alive with danger. And then, just as suddenly, Lincoln's laughter pealed again, this time colder than before. "Welcome to the game, my friend." Sally felt a shudder run through her. She wasn't sure if she wanted to know more, but one thing was clear. She was in deeper than she had ever anticipated. As the door swung closed on the night, sealing them in the diner, a faraway siren wailed into the distance, adding to the tension building in the air. Could she escape this chaos before it consumed her? And what if curiosity led them all towards a reckoning that none could foresee? The man's breath hitched as he fumbled over his own words, eyes darting between Lincoln and Sally. The words syndicate lingered in the air, sharp and electric. A palpable fear draped itself over the diner, blocking out everything else. "What do you mean? They're after you?" Lincoln's tone shifted from curiosity to cold steel. It sent a chill running down Sally's spine. They know what I found." The stranger's voice cracked, a raw edge of panic seeping in. "I didn't mean to stumble into it. I was just looking for a way out of the city, and then I overheard something I shouldn't have." He paused, glancing around as if he could see the shadows of the syndicate creeping through the walls. Sally's heart raced. The stories about the syndicate swirled in her mind, muffled whispers of danger and deceit. "What did you overhear?" she asked, her voice shaking. He swallowed hard, locking eyes with her, then back to Lincoln. "Plans, big plans. Something about a shipment that's supposed to go down tonight." "They're going to." Something shifted in Lincoln's expression, a dark glimmer of interest flashing in his eyes. Sally couldn't shake the feeling that the man was offering them a warning, but the way Lincoln's lips curled into a smile made her uneasy. "Tonight?" Lincoln purred, his voice smooth like honey but tainted with poison. "How convenient." "What do you mean?" The stranger quivered, stepping back instinctively. "I need your help. If they find me, there's no telling what they'll do." Lincoln leaned back, regarding the man like a predator sizing up its prey. "And why would I help you? You might bring the syndicate right to my doorstep." The stranger trembled, the game of intimidation unfolding before Sally's eyes. Lincoln's power over the situation was palpable, and she felt a spark of rebellion flare inside her. "He's terrified." "Lincoln, if you know anything about what the syndicate does enough." Lincoln cut her off, his voice low and threatening. "Don't make me remind you of your place." Sally recoiled, but she couldn't let it go. "No one deserves this. We can't just ignore him. What if he's telling the truth?" The stranger's eyes widened, filled with desperation. "Please, I've got nowhere else to go. They'll kill me. You help me, and I'll tell you everything about what I heard. I swear." Lincoln silently considered this, the corners of his lips lifting slightly, as though he enjoyed watching her defend a man on the brink of collapse. "I'll make you a deal." Lincoln's voice dripped with a mix of mockery and intrigue. "We'll give you an hour. If they don't find you, we can talk." A mix of relief and fear danced across the stranger's face. Thank you. But Lincoln leaned forward, his expression twisting dangerously. "But if they do find you, and I suspect they might, well, I hope you can run fast." The tension swelled, the diner now swirling in a thick fog of anticipation and lurking danger. Sally glanced at the clock, watching the minute hand creep towards 4. Time was slipping through her fingers, just like the situation spiraled beyond her control. Outside, the wailing sirens grew closer, and her mind raced with the thought of where their choices would lead them next. Can one act of kindness be the lifeline between life and death? As the lights flickered yet again, shadows danced in the corners, clouding her vision and her mind. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, sending a jolt through the fragile peace they had crafted. A shadow loomed, dark and ominous, puncturing the veil of safety they still clung to. What or who had just come through the back door? The door swung open with a creak, and the figure that emerged was tall, wrapped in a long black coat that swept the floor like a phantom-esque shadow. The murky light of the diner barely illuminated the hulking build of the newcomer, but the glint in his eyes was unmistakable, sharp, cold, and searching. "Evening, folks." His voice was gravelly, the kind that made the hair on the back of Sally's neck stand up. He stepped inside, casually tossing a glance around the small room, landing briefly on Lincoln before shifting to the stranger. Sally's heart raced. Who was this man? Why did he seem so comfortable in this dangerous game? She could feel the air grow heavier, tense with impending conflict. Lincoln didn't flinch, even as the stranger became visibly paler. "You're not supposed to be here," Lincoln said, his tone dripping with concealed amusement. The man grinned, revealing a set of perfect teeth that gleamed too brightly in the dim light. "Oh, but I am, and I've come to collect." Sally felt her hands go clammy as she exchanged glances with the stranger, whose eyes were wide with fright. The engagement had shifted from a tense standoff to something more dangerous. She could almost hear the threat gnashing its teeth. "Let him go," the stranger stammered, backing into a booth, desperation radiating from him like heat. "Let him go?" The man chuckled, eyes dancing with malicious glee. "He's the one who's been eavesdropping. Poor little mouse got caught in the big trap." There was a menacing twist to his words, making Sally's skin crawl. "Drop it," Lincoln said softly, almost invitingly, like a magician luring his audience into the illusion. He made a shooing gesture, the amusement flickering back into his gaze. "Maybe this is just what I needed tonight." The newcomer leaned against the counter, crossing his arms as if he owned the place. "You see, my boss has been waiting for this information. You wouldn't believe what they plan on doing with it." Realization hit Sally like ice water. This was bigger than them. This was about power, control lives. "Please, you can't," the stranger pleaded again. "You don't understand how deep this goes." With a swift motion, the man reached into his coat. A collective breath caught in the air. For a moment, everything halted, hearts pounding like drums as he produced a sleek, silver phone. "Time to call the syndicate," he said, his smile never wavering. "And your hour is almost up." Sally felt a rush of adrenaline. She had to act, but what? "Lincoln," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. His expression was unreadable, but she could see the gears turning in his mind. Would he help or let this unfold? The man at the counter held his phone aloft, the light reflecting in his calculating eyes. "Care to join me for a chat? I'm sure these folks would love to hear things get a little louder tonight." Time slipped by, each second winding tighter around her like a noose. "Don't you dare," Lincoln hissed through clenched teeth. But just as the man's finger hovered over the screen, a low rumble echoed from outside, louder now, more urgent. Sirens blared, wailing like banshees, flooding the diner with an ominous glow through the windows. The trickle of sweat ran down Sally's back as she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe the chaos would help them. Maybe, but the newcomer merely laughed, his eyes darkening. "You really think this is going to save you?" Before she could respond, the sharp blast of another crash rang out, this time followed by shouts. This wasn't just a fight, it was a breach. The syndicate had arrived. Now, the stakes were higher than ever. What would happen when the truth collided with the dark presence they had invited into their lives? The back door scuffed against the tile, and Molly, the diner's usual late-night cook, popped her head around the corner. What the hell is going on? Then, suddenly, the power flickered and went dark, plunging them into shadows thick as fears. Sally's heart pounded. Who would be the last one standing when the morning light broke? What would the syndicate's arrival truly mean for all? of them. The air thickened with uncertainty as darkness enveloped the diner, the only sound the frantic thrum of hearts and the distant wailing of sirens. A heavy silence descended, punctuated only by the click of the stranger's phone, a promise of calamity hanging in the balance. Sally strained her eyes, but it was almost impossible to discern anything beyond the reach of thin moonlight filtering through the grimy windows. Shadows danced on the walls, creating figures that felt all too alive. Lincoln's silhouette remained rigid near the counter, a pillar of calm in the chaos. What was he thinking? Someone get the lights back on. Molly's voice cut through the dark like a beacon, but panic was already creeping in, taut like a string ready to snap. The man with the phone pivoted, his laughter echoing through the diner. You think this is your average blackout? This is just the beginning. Welcome to your final act. Panic clawed at Sally. She had to do something. What do you want? Why are you doing this? Her voice, wavering but defiant, cut through his bravado. It's simple, sweetheart, he replied, that smile plastered on his face, surreal against the encroaching dread. I want what Lincoln has a ticket to the big leagues. And he is not exactly keen on sharing. What do you mean, the big leagues? Sally pressed, feeling the weight of the moment swell within her, building like a tidal wave. Every secret in this town, darling, he purred, and they've got Lincoln by the throat. It's high stakes, high rewards. Though her mind raced, she couldn't ignore the gnawing sensation at the back of her mind. What did Lincoln know? Was it worth the risk? Outside, footsteps crunched on gravel. The police were circling like vultures, and each blaring siren sent a shudder through Sally's bones. The diner had never felt more suffocating. Molly darted over to the nearest window, squinting into the darkness. We need to get out of here, she shouted, pressing against the glass. Stay put, Lincoln barked, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. We can't run yet. We need a plan. The fear in Sally's chest tightened. What could they possibly do against a man who had seemingly calculated every move? She flicked her gaze toward the stranger, who watched Lincoln with cold anticipation. Time's ticking. Lincoln, the man taunted, still clenching his phone as if it were a lifeline. Make your choice. Lincoln's eyes narrowed. In that moment, he looked almost vulnerable, stripped of the power he usually wielded. Then, as if the universe paused just for them, another sound broke through the fearful silence. A roar. A metallic roar. A huge truck screeched to a halt outside the diner. What now? Sally whispered, her heart racing. The door slammed open, and all eyes turned to the entrance. A figure stepped in, silhouetted by the headlights of the truck. It was a woman, her hair wild, eyes blazing with fierce determination. No more games, she shouted, breaking through the tension like glass shattering. I'm here for what's rightfully mine. The man with the phone faltered for the first time, surprise flickering across his features. Sally's heart jumped. Who was this woman? What did she mean? As the tension boiled over, a single realization struck Sally like lightning. They were all caught in a web spun by greed, desperation, and hidden truths. And the stranger's laughter faded, replaced by the deafening sound of impending chaos. Are you ready for the reckoning? The newcomer asked, taking a step forward, confidence radiating from her. The very air crackled with the electric promise of conflict. Who was this bold woman, and could she turn the tide? The answers were just beyond the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. And as secrets threatened to unravel, the clock was ticking down to the moment of truth. The woman in the doorway, silhouetted by the headlights, held the room's gaze like a spotlight. Uncertainty hung in the air, thick and palpable. Her voice rang with authority that challenged the shadowy figure, and for an instant, the balance of power shifted. Who are you? Lincoln managed, his voice steady but laced with tension. Let us just say I'm a friend of your past, she replied, her tone sharp, as if every word was a knife aimed straight at the man with the phone. She stepped into the diner, and Sally could see her face now, strong jaw, fierce eyes. A force of nature, radiating a raw energy that both terrified and intrigued. The man with the phone sneered, regaining some composure. Your arrogance will only get you so far, sweetheart, he warned, voice dripping with disdain. You're in way over your head. Am I? She shot back, not wavering an inch. Because it looks to me like you're the one on borrowed time. The air crackled between them, an unspoken challenge igniting a fire. Lincoln's expression shifted. Was that recognition in his eyes? Sally's heart raced. What history lay between them? Your little game ends here, she declared, her fists clenched at her sides. I'm taking back what's mine, and I want to leave without it. Confusion rippled through the diner like a wave. What are you talking about? Molly asked, her voice trembling. Before the woman could respond, the lights flickered, sputtering with a faint hum, then surged back to life, flooding the space with harsh illumination. Sally blinked against the sudden brightness, her heart skipping. The diner looked almost normal again, but the atmosphere buzzed with tension, thick enough to choke on. As she took in her surroundings, it became evident that everything had changed. The stranger still gripping his phone seemed less formidable under the glaring lights, but his demeanor was far from defeated. You think you can just walk in here and demand what isn't yours? He spat, eyes narrowing. You'll pay for that mistake. Sue me, she fired back, challenging him like a reigning champion. Even Lincoln began to stir, taking a step towards her. Wait, he began, but his words were drowned out by the sudden cacophony of sirens roaring closer. What is happening? Molly cried, darting back towards the window, peering through the glass. The flashing lights cast an eerie glow that made the whole scene feel like a waking nightmare. It's too late, the man with the phone declared, his confidence slipping slightly. I already called in reinforcements. Panic surged in Sally once more. Reinforcements? Was he joking? The police were already on the scene, and now who knew what else was heading their way? Quick, we need to hide, she yelled, but the urgency in her voice fell flat against the rising tide of chaos. Or we fight back, the woman interjected, eyes flashing. I'm not running from this. A deep chill ran down Sally's spine as she realized how dangerous this confrontation had become. Everyone in the diner stood on the brink, and one wrong move could plunge them into darkness. Before she could process the implications, the door flung open again. Figures poured in, uniforms glittering in the diner's fluorescent lights, badges flashing as they swept through chaotic, authoritative, and demanding. Police. Hands where I can see them. Sally's heart dropped as everyone froze, fear etched across their faces. The tension coiled tighter, stretching to its breaking point. And just like that, all semblance of trust shattered. Lincoln turned to the woman, his expression unreadable. You've put us all at risk, he hissed, voice low but fierce. Risks are part of the game. Lincoln, she shot back, fire in her tone. As the officer's voice thundered through the diner, Sally thought of secrets and how the truth could twist in the grip of desperation. Was there a lifeline here, or would everything they feared come crashing down around them? Tell me the truth, she shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos as adrenaline fueled her bravery. But an unexpected twist left them hanging. The woman's eyes darted towards Lincoln, panic flashing in them, as she took a step backward. I can't let them find out. What was she hiding? And what would happen if the truth came out? The stakes were higher than ever, and now, it felt like everything was about to explode. The sirens blared louder, filling the small diner with an unnerving urgency. The officers, already filtering in, seemed unfazed by the tension that enveloped the room. Their presence was commanding, shaking everyone from their stupor. Everyone remained calm, barked a tall officer, scanning the corners of the room with hawk-like precision. His eyes landed on the woman, still standing defiantly with her fists clenched. Ma'am, step away from that man, he ordered. But instead of complying, she squared her shoulders, defiance radiating off her. Who do you think you are? She shot back, her voice rich with disdain. You're about to make a big mistake enough. The officer's voice snapped like a crack of thunder. He drew closer, hand hovering at his belt, ready as if to pull something. Sally's heart raced. Would they get arrested? Would this confrontation spill into chaos? The man with the phone, a moment ago so assured, visibly withered under the officer's glare. I didn't call the police for a fight, he stammered, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. I merely wanted to save it. The officer cut him off, his gaze unyielding as he took in the whole scene, every person pressed against the linoleum floor, breath held, awaiting the next move in this high-stakes game. Molly clung to Lincoln, her fingers trembling as she whispered, "What are we going to do?" Stay quiet. Lincoln's words were steady but filled with uncertainty. The atmosphere was electric. The newcomer's history with Lincoln felt dangerous, a ticking time bomb, waiting. What was it that needed hiding? Each second stretched painfully, a taut wire ready to snap. The woman's eye darted around, unease creeping in. She was losing her calm. Turn off the lights. Came another order from the officer, loud and commanding, echoing against the diner's walls. With a move so swift it was almost unnatural, the woman lunged toward the switchboard. At the same moment, all the lights went out, plunging the diner into darkness. Gasps erupted, more startled than scared. Squeaks of chairs shifting. Sally felt her heart hammer against her ribs, fear coiling within her. Confusion engulfed them, a swirling tempest of chaos and disbelief. "Get down!" Someone yelled, the voice sharp and panicked. The sound broke the stillness like glass shattering. Suddenly a strobe light flashed from nowhere, cutting through the dark, casting wild shadows on the walls. The police officers scrambled, issuing frantic orders to each other. "Find her. She can't get away." Sally barely had a moment to register who they were shouting about when the woman's voice sliced through the dynamic again. "You don't know anything," she shouted, her tone fierce. In that moment, a crash echoed from the back room. Sally's gaze whipped toward the sound, just as she caught sight of the woman sprinting toward the kitchen. "No, come back," Lincoln shouted, but she was already too far gone. The chaos escalated. Officers ran toward the noise, lighting up their torches, illuminating the desperation in their eyes. Seconds felt like hours. Sally's pulse raced, her mind leaped to unfathomable conclusions. Then, with a heart-stopping clarity, Lincoln turned to her, eyes wide. "We have to go. Now." "What?" she managed. Everything felt surreal, a nightmare unfolding. "There's no time. They'll find us if we stay," he insisted, urgency lacing his words. He grabbed her arm, a firm grip reminiscent of the trust she was still trying to wrap her head around. As they moved, a part of Sally wondered about the depths of this woman's secrets. A million questions flooded her mind as they rushed toward the diner's rear exit, the weight of countless unknowns bearing down on her heart. And there it was, a choice looming large in her mind: run into the dark, face their fears, or stay lost in confusion. But what was it that drove each of them to this moment? What brought a group of strangers to the edge of chaos? As they burst through the door into the alley, the night air hit them like water in the face, refreshing yet full of foreboding. Sirens wailed, the night alive with uncertainty. "Where do we go from here?" she whispered, fear knotting in her stomach. Lincoln met her gaze, determination etched in his features, and for that brief moment, the chaos inside the diner faded away entirely. But just as hope flickered in her chest, a voice rang out behind them, sharp as glass freeze. "You're not going anywhere." With that, they were thrust back into the storm, and the questions only multiplied. What was waiting for them outside, and would they ever escape whatever was chasing them? Sally froze, the chill of the night wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Lincoln's grip tightened, pulling her back as some instinct urged them to run, but the voice, deep, commanding, anchored her to the ground. "Hands up. Now." The officer's flashlight pierced the darkness, illuminating faces twisted in alarm. Sally could feel the weight of countless eyes on her. The alley felt suddenly too small, too suffocating, as her heart thudded louder than the sirens. "Lincoln, what shoo?" he hissed, his eyes darting around. "Just move slowly, we can reason with them." But reasoning was becoming a distant hope. The officer advanced, a towering figure against the strobing lights, weapon drawn. "Step away from her," he barked at Lincoln. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding." Lincoln tried to sound confident, his voice shaky. Sally's breath quickened. She could see over Lincoln's shoulder the woman darting through the back door, her figure a shadowy blur. It struck Sally like a bolt of lightning. Who was she? Why was the officer so intent on catching her? But the immediate danger was here, and she had to focus on them. "Don't move." The officer's shout was guttural, like a growl, and Sally felt it in her bones. Another officer joined, taking a position to the right, 2 against 1. "You two are in a world of trouble," he grunted, scanning the void where the diner nestled behind broken glass windows and flickering lights. "Listen," Lincoln said, raising his hand slowly but not lowering his eyes. "We were just..." But before he could finish, a loud crash erupted from the direction of the diner, startling everyone. The frigid air felt charged with electricity, and Sally realized this was spiraling into something much worse. "It's her," Sally blurted out, pointing toward the kitchen where the woman had fled, instinct taking over. She wasn't sure why, but the need to help had flared inside her, a yearning to understand the chaos unraveling around them. "Stay where you are," the officer barked, but Sally was already taking a step forward, an invisible tether pulling her toward that kitchen door. She felt a visceral connection to the unknown, that this woman held secrets she needed to uncover. "Don't," Lincoln shouted, but she couldn't turn back now. Ignoring the fear blooming in her chest, she dashed forward. The night air whipped around her as she bolted, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The officer's shouts faded into background noise. She flew past the flashing lights, her focus zeroing in on that darkened corridor. "Why are you running?" she shouted, breathless as she neared the door. She needed answers. Then she halted abruptly, the air thick ahead. In the dim light, she caught sight of the woman, backed against a wall, wild-eyed and panting. "You don't understand. They're after me for a reason." "Then tell me," Sally blurted, eyes wide in disbelief. "What did you do?" The woman's gaze flickered toward the diner, panic rushing through her. "I'm not who you think I am." A sharp bark of laughter cut through the tension. It was the man with the phone, somehow making his way out through the diner's back. "You thought this mess was all about her." His smile was riddled with something dark, a threatening energy that curled around the alley. A thud echoed from behind them, and suddenly the shadows began to slither forward, tightening their knot in Sally's gut. "What are you talking about?" Sally demanded, dread pooling inside her. Before the man could respond, another voice cut in from the hallway, the officer, now racing toward them with his fellow cop. Sally's stomach plummeted. "Step back, everyone." But it was too late. The unknown was clawing its way closer, leaving nothing but confusion and fear crushing them in this moment of reckoning. With the stakes soaring higher than she could imagine, she glanced at Lincoln, his face a mix of fear and determination. She wasn't safe, and neither were they. Could they solve this twisted puzzle before it enveloped them entirely? The sound of footsteps grew louder, the answer closing in fast. Sally's heart raced as the officer neared. The air thickened with uncertainty and tension, each breath feeling heavier than the last. The woman, still pressed against the wall, looked at Sally with wide, pleading eyes. "You have to trust me. They're not what they seem." "Trust you?" Sally felt a rush of anger. "You're the one running. Do you want to end up in cuffs too?" The woman shot back, her voice rising above the chaotic echoes of the alley. Sally bit her lip, glancing at Lincoln. His face was set, the flickering shadows playing tricks on their expressions. The laughter from the man, Mr. Phone, cut through the fray like a knife. "You have no idea what you're messing with, sweetheart. This circus isn't just for show." What was this circus he spoke of? A storm of questions swirled around in Sally's mind, drowning out the noise of the approaching officers. Just then, the second officer lunged forward, reaching for Lincoln. "Get away from her." "No," Sally screamed, her voice cracking. She had to act. Lunging forward, she grabbed the woman's arm. "We don't have time for this." The woman's eyes sparked with desperation. "You don't know who they are. They're hunters, enough." The first officer roared, stepping dangerously close. With his weapon drawn, he raised his flashlight, glaring into Sally's eyes. The harsh light blinded her momentarily, and for a split second, fear took the wheel. "Hands where I can see them," he commanded. Just then, the weight of the woman's panic filled the air between them. "I didn't kill him," she declared, her voice almost a whisper. "But I saw it all. If they catch me, I can't explain what's really at stake here." Sally's spine prickled. "What are you talking about? Who did you see?" Before the woman could answer, Mr. Phone smiled slyly, something darker swirling behind his eyes. "This is where it gets interesting. Let me give you a little insight. The truth isn't what you think it is, darling. It's a tangled web, and you're both caught in it." The officer took another step forward, his patience evaporating. "I want to ask again." Panic surged through Sally. "Don't shoot, please," the woman begged, her body tense with fear. "If you let me explain, we can make sense of this." The officer hesitated, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. Was this just another ploy? Lincoln's voice broke through the tension, low and fierce. "Sally, don't do this. It's too dangerous. But something primal within Sally responded to the urgency in the woman's plea. No, we need answers. The blare of another police siren echoed in the distance, and the moment hung, fragile in the suffocating darkness of the alley. Tension coiled around them, threatening to snap. They'll kill us if we don't act now. In that second, the woman darted forward, throwing herself towards the officers. You don't understand. You have to listen. Simultaneously, a loud crash shattered the air near the diner entrance glass, smashing, wood splintering. The officers turned, shouting into their radios. What was that? The second officer yelled, adrenaline surging through him. Sally froze as shadows erupted from deeper within the alley, figures moving fast and purposeful, their forms blurred in the chaos. The atmosphere shifted in an instant from confusion to a chilling realization that something much worse was at play. Get back! The first officer shouted, just as chaos erupted around them. Sally's thoughts raced. What was this tangled web? Who were these hunters? And in a heartbeat, everything changed. Could she face it? A blinding light swelled from the diner, illuminating everything in an almost celestial glow, but it came with a dark intention hiding beneath its surface. The woman looked at Sally one last time, her expression shifting from fear to something fierce defiance, even. You need to decide now if you want the truth, or if you want to live in the dark. With the ground shaking beneath their feet, the sirens piercing through the night, one question rang louder than the chaos. Was it worth stepping into the truth, even if it meant losing everything? And behind them, shadows crept closer, hungry for answers and for blood. Sally's heart hammered, almost drowning out the chaos and noise around her. The officer's voice cut through the dim alley, ordering them to stand down, to stop moving. But how could she remain still with the weight of fear settling in her gut? Shadows loomed larger, more threatening by the second. Who are you? Sally demanded, eyes fixed on the woman. What did you see? The woman's gaze darted between Sally and the approaching officers, each moment stretching painfully. I can explain everything, she said, desperation spilling from her voice. But you need to understand they're not what you think. They don't want the truth, they want control. Before Sally could process the implications, the man Mr. Phone chuckled, cutting through the tension. Oh please, she makes it sound so noble. Newsflash, sweetheart, everyone has their price. That's the real game. A crash echoed from the diner as whatever had emerged knocked over chairs and shattered glass. A tidal wave of terror rolled toward them, the stakes rising higher than ever. You're running out of time, shouted one officer, his eyes narrowing. Sally, desperate, felt the tension crackle around her, thick like smoke. Please, the woman pleaded, stepping forward. Just give me a moment. Sally's mind raced. Every second they lingered brought danger closer. What do we do? She asked Lincoln, anxiety choking her voice. He remained frozen, caught in the web of chaos, assessing the danger. We fight if we must, he responded, his voice steady, confidence budding amidst the storm. The officer stepped closer, weapon drawn, expressive lines of authority etched on his face. Step away from her. You're obstructing justice. But fear twisted into a kind of resolve inside Sally. What if you're the ones in the wrong? The woman's eyes shone with unshed tears. I saw them kill him. I swear it. What are you talking about? The officer barked, frustration spilling out. Detective Morgan. The woman shouted at him, airtight with urgency. You're missing the bigger picture. Suddenly, another crash echoed as more figures surged into the alley. Chaos erupted as the officers turned their attention to a new threat, realizing too late the real danger wasn't them. The syndicate had arrived. Sally felt the air shift, electric, palpable. The woman had aimed her words towards hope, but it was now dangling by a thread. Launch the plan, shouted a figure from among the throng, and suddenly, the alley filled with more menacing silhouettes. Recklessness poured out, and surrounding voices grew louder, commanding everyone's attention. Get them. They can't escape. Go, go, go. Sally's grip on reality wavered as she locked eyes with Lincoln, a shared sense of urgency igniting their connection. They had to leave, but where? Adrenaline surged through her veins. Lincoln, she screamed. Now, with determination fueling her legs, she reached out and grabbed the woman's wrist. Come with us. As if breaking the spell of time, they broke into a run, sprinting away from the chaos behind them. Behind them, the screeches of desperation and betrayal followed as the rest was swallowed by darkness. "Turn right ahead," Lincoln barked, his voice firm and guiding. "We can throw them off." The woman, full of fright, pushed forward, keeping pace next to Sally. "This way," she shouted, leading them into another alley. Sally couldn't believe how fast the night had unraveled. Behind them, the shadows loomed, and the howls of the syndicate echoed, looming danger, heavy like sadness. But they could break free. There had to be a way. "Why are they after you?" Lincoln asked, breaking the silence, vulnerability flickering in the air despite the rush of momentum. The woman paused briefly, glancing over her shoulder. "I found something I wasn't supposed to see. A shipment, a plan for something catastrophic." As they tore through the nonstop night, understanding settled deep within Sally. This was bigger than them. Lives were at stake. And somehow, they were tangled in the middle, a maze of secrets threatening to swallow them whole. Suddenly, the woman skidded to a halt, a misstep that sent dread through Sally. "Stop. We can't keep running aimlessly, or they'll catch us," she panted, panic seeping into her tone. Sally's heart constricted. "What do we do then?" The woman's brows drew together, her expression fierce. "We fight back." An absurd instinct took root in Sally. Fear wasn't going to consume them. Not now. Together, then. For the truth. Lincoln glanced at her, eyes gleaming with determination. "Let us end this." The woman nodded, the bravado returning to her stance. "If we can draw them out, all of them, then maybe we can expose the truth." "Is that even possible?" Sally dared to ask, but it sounded more like hope. The din of chaos receded as the shadows lingered, uncertainty twisting in the air, but they had a choice. And choices led to power. "We turn this around now," the woman declared, a fierce spark igniting their shared bond and unshakable alliance against the darkness. They stood there in the alley, pulsating with a rush of adrenaline, fear, anger, resolve, all swirling together. And at that moment, they understood that each thread of their story tied them to this pivotal end. They were no longer victims. They would be the architects of their destiny. As they set their plan into motion, one final thought surged within Sally. The truth could set them free, ignite hope, or drown them in despair. They were ready to find out together. And just like that, as dawn began to break, illuminating the night they thought would consume them, the air shifted. Each shadow finally had purpose. Together, they would finally confront the storm that threatened to tear their lives apart. The reckoning was approaching now. The clock was ticking. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The adventure continues, and only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.